Hello everyone, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm, where my addictions all over the internet. On this channel I do book hauls, book reviews, both digital and physical edition, audiobook reviews, and so much more. So it is still Saturday. It is currently 3:57 at the time this video is done in the morning. I'm going to do this video, upload it, and then I'm going to bed because I need to sleep. Alright, so this is something else. And I want to let people know, I apologize for any cursing or yelling or whatever I'm about ready to do, because this pisses me off too much, because this exposes how much of a liar that these conservative parental rights people are. And it literally makes me wonder, when in the world is Texas, and that's the state that's in this gun we'll be mentioning, what is it going to take to drill through these brain dead assholes in the Republican Party that nothing you do to interfere with adults' ability to read what they want to read is ever going to work. Is ever going to work. So, I have on the phone, and I was about ready to go to bed. I decided, as much as I'm not a fan of my cell phone, because I am not, I wanted to see what dumb people were doing before I went to bed. So that way, I could decide if I had something to rant about before I went to bed. Well, found it. It's from the lovely group of people called Newsweek, and we all love them to death. So, this is the newest bullshit that's coming out of the state of Texas in quite some time. So, last year, or maybe a little bit before last year, Texas had passed a law signed by neo-Nazi Greg Abbott that bookstores had to put a rating on their books so that parents would know if the book was suitable for their children, without not quite getting that parents can do that for themselves. Not trusting parents to know what's best for their kids. They just assume that parents don't know shit about their kids, even though they carried them in their body for not 9 months, but for like 40 weeks. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, parents know more than you do. So they tried, and it was sued. They got their little asses sued. Went all the way up to the appellate court in Louisiana. Louisiana struck it down. Said that there's a good chance that parents would win in the next court, which is the Supreme Court. Yeah, the court that believes that adults can think for themselves. No matter who's on the court. These justices automatically believe Americans can think for themselves and make their own decisions. Yeah, don't matter who appointed who, their belief is people can make their own decisions. That's a common belief the Supreme Court has. Everybody can make their own decisions. So, by the way, my ear's acting up. So, what is going on? Oh, Lord. Alright, so I have mentioned this several times. I have. It's important to reiterate it for people that are brain dead and dumb. These book bans have never been about children. It's about controlling the population as a whole. So the biggest lie that these organizations use oh, you can buy it at the bookstore. We're not taking that away from you. Well, you might not be, but the state is. The state is so determined to protect children from naughty stuff that they will ensure that no one has access to anything they don't like. Because little Susie or little Johnny could accidentally see it. So if we get rid of the stores that are selling it, little Susie and little Johnny will be safe. Okay. There's only one small problem with that. You're going after adults, and you're essentially taking other people's joy away. So I'm going to read this. This is from Newsweek. Thank you, Newsweek, for having this very interesting article. All right. So I'm gonna go bit by bit in here, add my own 2 cents, my own opinion on it, and all that. It says here, a bill has been introduced to the Texas legislature that could result in bookstores facing fines and legal costs if they place material deemed obscene within access of a minor. All right. So, here's the thing. Okay? You go and you are want to introduce this bill into law, which I know Abbott, the little neo-Nazi, will sign it. Because you want to cut off every possible way that a minor, even with full sight of their parents, from being able to access that book. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. A parent could buy the book for their child. Okay? A little credit card. And that would get the state angry. Alright. House Bill 1375 was proposed by another neo-Nazi. I cannot pronounce his name. He's a Republican. Who said it is needed to keep harmful material away from children. Critics argue it would force bookshops to self-censor or risk potentially devastating lawsuits. More Newsweek. Okay. In recent years, a number of Republican-controlled states have passed laws banning school libraries from holding certain books they regard as inappropriate. So that's what they've done. They have only targeted schools and public libraries. But what this bill does is it takes book banning away from the very sphere that, like Moms for Liberty and other organizations, have personally targeted. And the argument that book banners of all kinds are saying is, we are not taking it away from bookshops. You can still go in and you can still buy the book. What this law does is says no. If it is not allowed in libraries, both public and school, it is not allowed in bookshops. Now, this bill, which we know will become law because, the neo-Nazis rule everything in Texas, they are going to say to independent bookshops, Barnes and Nobles, all half-price books, that you cannot have these books out there for minors to pick up. But what that basically does is that they are essentially coming in and telling parents, well, guess what? Obviously, you cannot raise your children the way we want you to raise them, so we're going to tell you that your child cannot have access to these books, even if it's a bookshop that's run by adults, that 99% of the clientele that comes in is adults. Now, I don't know what constitution that these Texan neo-Nazis are following, but it's not the constitution that my mama raised her hand up back in the 70s. It isn't. It isn't the constitution that my father went over to Vietnam and fought for. Okay. The Texas legislation in 2023 passed a bill forbidding school libraries from having any book among its stacks that describes or portrays sexual conduct in a potentially offensive way that are not required in... Okay, I'm going to pass PEN America. We all know about PEN America. House Bill 1375 would make commercial enterprises such as bookstores liable for damages arising from the distribution, transmission, or display of harmful material to a minor. This would include when such materials is readily accessible to minors or includes a minor's visual, images, audio, voice, or participation in any manner. Any business found to have broken the law could have to pay damages and would be liable for associated court costs and legal fees. The legislation also specifies that a business could face multiple lawsuits over the same piece of material deemed obscene if more than one person decides to launch a case. Such material could be reported by either minors or their parent or guardian. The bill does contain protections for media organizations, including newspapers, magazines, and TV stations. Speaking to local television network, okay, the bill also holds commercial entities accountable if they are knowingly distributing, transmitting, or displaying harmful material to minors in a way that is incredibly accessible or includes a minor's image, voice, and participation. If a business is used to engage in an obscenity for the personal benefit of its owner, those people can be held liable. It says here, Charlie, who runs Books People in Austin, Texas, says House Bill 1375 threatens to no longer allow those young readers into our bookstores and ultimately could cause some bookstores to close their door. And the Freedom to Read Project, which campaigns around against book bans, said House Bill 1375, authors by the neo-Nazi, makes it easier for book banners and other bad actors to raise frivolous claims against local bookshops, big box stores, and online retailers over books they will falsely claim are harmful to minors. So we're talking about Walmart could get sued, Barnes & Noble could get sued, independent bookstores can get sued, and oh yes, Amazon. Amazon can easily be sued because they do not. Now, Barnes & Noble does it because that's just something that they decided a long time ago to do. But Amazon does not, as far as I know of, have an age range for their books. They leave it up to the buyer to know. So yeah. So continue on. The increased risk of lawsuits will make it harder for retailers to do business in our local communities and in Texas as a whole when school district is going to work with a bookseller accused, falsely or not, of distributing harmful material to minors. Annie Ramsey says, we've been told by people trying to ban books, don't worry, it's not a book ban. You can buy whatever books you want at a private bookstore. This bill is potentially making it harder for private booksellers to shelve and offer the kind of books that we've seen banned or challenged in public schools and libraries. The Lone Star State's House Bill 1375 awaits a committee appearance. A similar bill failed to pass during the first legislative session. Texas governor, who was a neo-Nazi, is alright. So yeah, that was it. That is the end of the story. So here's the thing that gets me about it, is that every time that a state decides, and it's mostly in Texas that does it. Florida doesn't do it. Thankfully Florida doesn't do it. But Texas does it. And Texas wants to do it. And Texas believes that if we go and we pass this bill making the law, and a federal judge rules that the law is unconstitutional, which he or she will. By the way, I predict that judge will people will try to get the judge impeached. And then it's going to go to the Louisiana Court of Appeals, and they're going to oh, fuck this. Really? Well, we did this dance 2 years ago. Yeah. And they go and they're like, no, you cannot dictate what adults are reading because there just happen to be books for minors in a bookstore. They're going to be like, and then what I feel is going to happen is that they're going to go to the Supreme Court and they're going to say, well, we want to keep businesses like Barnes & Noble and Amazon and Walmart from having these obscene material in their stores. And here's the thing. Talk about obscenity. Doesn't Walmart have bikinis? Ones like slits up their little ass crack? They have it. They have bikinis. They got the little string that goes up into the ass crack. That's exactly what, Ugh. You imagine trying to sue Amazon for violating this law when they're a nationwide company. So you're going to tell Amazon that every state, so the only way that you can get Amazon to follow this law, let's say, is to shut down the entire website. The entire website. No more Whole Food deliveries. No more Prime videos. No more Kindles. No more shoes. No more anything. That is never going to happen in any reality. And what I think that they're trying to do is they're trying to force their way of life on everyone else. Texas loves shoving up their hatred for the First Amendment in everyone's faces. Let's just ram our hatred for the First Amendment down your throat. It is stupid, it is retarded, or whatever. It is just insanity. You were not able to target booksellers by making them put a rating system on their books. Now you think that because Trump is in the White House, that the Supreme Court is going to just violate the First Amendment rights of every freaking American just so you can keep obscene books away from children. So this is the thing that really fucking pisses me off as an American in general, is you're talking about the closure of thousands and hundreds of thousands of, well, let's scale that back down. We're just talking about Texas. We're not talking about the 50 states. Hundreds of independent booksellers. Maybe 100. I don't know how many independent booksellers are in Texas. I don't know why you would want to be in Texas, but, You're talking about going into a Barnes & Noble and literally telling them, this layout that you got, that everyone loves, that adults love, no, you can't have it no more. You can't have a curated collection anymore. Going to first and foremost, for you to go and try with Amazon, and I know people don't like Amazon and they hate Amazon and all that jazz, but nothing that Jeff Bezos or nothing the new CEO of Amazon has ever done in any lifetime warrants this kind of law. You're going to fly to California. This is the only way you're going to see him, is he's in fucking California. And you're going to tell him, oh, by the way, we passed this law because we know more about books than you do. And guess what? You can't sell books to no one. No. People are probably going to laugh at what I just said. But you imagine being a I don't know, a 31, or no, not 31, that's too young. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm trying to buy a book, living in Texas, and trying to buy a book on biology from Amazon, and being told, I'm sorry, but because you live in fuckland, you can't buy it. How in the hell are you going to convince 9 justices that dictating and controlling what full-grown ass adults read is somehow constitutional because it keeps it away from the children? So you're not prohibiting the books because they violate your religious rights or your perceived religious rights. I didn't know neo-Nazis had religious rights, but no. So you're doing it because you probably didn't get fucked the night before, and you want to go after the very people that these book banners claimed a couple years ago would never ever be targeted for banning. And I get so fucking pissed off with people that turn around and says, oh, this book banning stuff is a hoax because look, you can buy it at the bookstore. This is a test law. This is a test law. It's a test bill. If they can convince the 6 conservative justices that violating adults' First Amendment rights is legal, then you're going to start seeing it in a lot of your blue states, where there will be an entire state that does not have a single bookstore. And that is what they have been wanting to do for years. And while I doubt the Supreme Court would violate adults' First Amendment rights, because what you're basically saying is that it doesn't matter if you don't have kids or you have kids. We're going to tell you what you can and cannot read. Because that was the whole purpose behind this book banning, was to tell adults what they could and could not read. Like I have said over and over again, this is not about protecting children. Texas is making it very clear it is not about protecting children. It is about turning off any possible way that adults and adults buying books for children can have that right stripped from them. And in the past, and this has been, you had these obscenity trials. And judges have always sided with the First Amendment. It doesn't matter who the fuck put them in office. They've always been for the First Amendment. So you're hoping this will go to the Supreme Court, where you're going to have 9 justices to try to take away the right of adults to read whatever the fuck they want to read. And you think, oh great state of Texas, that this is going to work. They have a fucking box or boxes full of decisions that appellate courts have made and district and federal judges have made. This is not the same thing as a parent saying it is against my family's religious beliefs for my children to read books with LGBTQIA characters. It's not the same. You are trying to shut down these booksellers so that no matter the age bracket of the person walking into that store, they will not have access. And with romanticy being huge, with romanticy being a huge part of book industry, grown-ass adult women reading scandalous, evil, horrible books that have graphic representations of sex, yeah. I should have known that Texas was not done fucking over their voters. I I don't quite get it. When will you learn that the Supreme Court is not going to take away our Sarah J. Maas's and our Rebecca Yarnos's and our this book and this book and this book and this book. They're not. But Texas is hoping they will. Texas is hoping they will make it precedents that you cannot read whatever you want to read. And it used to be like that. It used to be like that a long time ago. But that is what pisses me off as an American, as someone who cherishes our First Amendment rights, is, yeah, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And, and I mean, like, I told my brother when it happened, I said, yeah, Texas lost. Texas lost last year. What did they do? Hey, let's just try again. But this time, instead of having a rating system, let's have just dictating and controlling what people can and cannot read, even in private businesses. And I do agree wholeheartedly that this can be used. This can be used to buy book banners to ensure that these books that were only banned in schools and public libraries are now going to be banned in private bookstores. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. Like I said, it'll pass. And when it passes, the federal courts are waiting on them. But if they decide to press forward and go all the way up to the Supreme Court, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not, I have fear that even if the Supreme Court rules that Texas cannot do this, that they will try again, and then literally, I'm gonna be like, it didn't work, assholes, it didn't work. Anyways, I'm gonna end it there, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.